Is this better? Is that mo better? Same damn low sweater? No? I don't know. Let's go to the default. I can change it again. Sorry, got to do some speaker. Is this one better? Yippee-ki, yippee-ki. No, no, that's definitely not it. Yippee-ki, 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 yay. A real California motherfucker, I say. Yippee-ki, 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 yay. Phony motherfuckers go out that way. Okay, good. Let me just check. You think after going through this every goddamn week, okay, it's the Logitech mic. Okay, so it's the, no, that's the camera. I'm going to go and lock into my man. First of all, okay, it's the second. Okay. Anyway, all I'm saying is I don't like calling New York Love by King Son Dula. I don't like calling that song a diss track because I believe in my heart if Tupac had heeded the words of, I think King Son was trying to save Tupac's life. When he said, how you selling records, making movies, doing tours, then be up and down or scrubbing other niggas' drawers. The whole point of being criminal is getting paid. Son, you paid already. Acting crazy like Ed. I swear, it's just my conclusion that he was trying to save dude's life, man. That's a prophetic album. And if Tupac had heeded that man's words, you know, if he had heeded that man's word, I do believe that Tupac would still be here today. And a diss track is trying to tear you down, trying to take life from you. I don't even think that qualifies as a diss track. They call it it's a diss track, but I just can't agree to that because it's so much concern and love and good advice, instruction. It's much more building up in that song than tearing down, for my opinion. I mean, if that's a diss track, then let me get this. And let me get this. Oh, you're right, number one fan. I should have wore my suit today. I should have wore the shirt and the collar, and I should have. I'm just bad today. Today's topic requires a certain level of respect. So we're gonna get into the word. But anyway, I had to play The Gods Were Taking Heads, and I'm really fortunate. I found that King Son LP. It's fly as hell. Just some old school, raw hip hop 5%er type shit. Dopest, one of the dopest collabs, you know. And even though Culture Freedom didn't really get on the mic that much back in the day, when he did get on the mic, it was always a treat for me. So anyway, this is the BroDiallo show. Today is August 14th, Black August. I'll never say August again. Black August 14th in the year of your Lord 2023. I am, as I said already, broadcasting straight out of the studios of Q4 Radio in the city of Chirac, state of Illinois, in the United States of America, on the over-ravaged, hyper-exploited planet Earth in the misnamed Milky Way galaxy. I'm very happy to be here. I'm very happy to have you here with me. Now I'm going to try to get through this, and I'm going to try to get through it in enough time to open up the lines so y'all can holler at me, because I know I got my haters. Ooh, I got my haters. Lord knows, man. There's this sister that really hates me. But I figured out her name is Goddess. and I'm an atheist. So I think that's, let me tell y'all something. If you hate, let me just speak to my haters. And I give too much attention to my haters because I have to admit, and I don't know if it's the poverty that I live in, the humble circumstances that define my life, my reality. Because the people now brag about having haters. I saw a little video of, what's his name? Floyd Mayweather. He was in Europe. And he's talking about how he flew a private jet, and a private jet flew him to a private helicopter, and a private helicopter flew him to a private yacht, and the private yacht took him back to the private jet, and then the private got back on the private jet to go back to the private helicopter just to fly over and admire the private yacht that took him to the private jet. And was talking, and he was talking about his haters. Now that dude, I'm sure he has haters, because goddamn. But me, because you really just like, man, you're just wasting you're spilling your hater juice, casting your hater pearls before swine, because I ain't got nothing, but anyway, for my haters, I think I've philosophized. I think hatred for BroDiallo comes from a few places. And some of them may be justified. I can't go say I love myself too much to say my haters are justified. But even if you're not justified as a BroDiallo hater, you're understood. I sympathize with my haters, but I can't justify my haters. But I think that one of the things why people be hating on me, man, is because it's like growing pains. It's like growing pains. When you go from one level to another level, it's painful, especially if you're in a comfortable position. It's like, how many of y'all, school didn't started, you're already into the groove of school, it's mid to late fall, the weather's cold, the sunlight is diminished, it ain't the long sunny days anymore, and you snuggled into your warm little bed, and here come your parent and flick on the light. Say, get your ass up, wake your ass up. That has happened to me so many times. And I was an idiot. When I was a kid, I'd leave shit around my doorway because my grandmother, she didn't like coming in my room. It's a teenage boy's room. If you have a teenage boy, I ain't even got to tell you. I'm sorry for triggering you. If you have a teenage boy, there's a threshold where you don't want to go into the room. The average parent of a teenage boy might step 2, maybe 3 feet, into the room. But generally, you just crack the door and you stick your head in. You don't even put your body in there. You keep your body clean, huh? You just stick. But me, I would make the mistake of leaving little shit around the doorway. Optimus Prime, Transformer, or a basketball, or a shoe. And I'd leave it around, and my grandmother would just aim for the lung. Get out for church. Get out for school. Get out to take out the trash. Get your ass up. So here I am. I host a whole media apparatus around waking your ass up. And I know coonery, buffoonery, unconsciousness, empty militancy, unexamined conclusions, undissected belief systems. That's like your cozy bed on a Tuesday, a cold, cloudy Tuesday morning. We're trying to wake your ass up and get your ass off to school. And y'all go back to that time in your limbic brain, in your reptilian brain, in your hypothalamus. You got that in your head. That, damn it, how dare he provoke thought. I ain't got no power to change your thought. I ain't got no power to do nothing. And people that listen to me engage me voluntarily. I don't have an advertising budget. I can't even go do no sponsored post. I ain't got nothing for nothing, nobody. You coming to me is purely organic. If you're being exposed to anything BroDiallo got to put out there, if you've been exposed to whatever it's because you volunteered for it. You know, I don't have that. I don't get invited on mainstream outlets. I'm underground, truly underground. I'm not underground as a marketing gimmick. I'm not guerrilla just for aesthetics. I'm underground guerrilla radio because those are the conditions under which I operate. I don't even think it's a flex to say I'm underground or guerrilla radio. It's just where I'm at. If I could, I would. If I had the level of support that let me do sponsor and get out there to the whole world, I tell you, mama. If I can get in your uncles and cousins, all of them, if I could go up in, if they invited me to a tabernacle, I'd go and say what I have to say because I advocate for and organize around Pan-African revolution, and I think the world should know. If I could rap, if I had a wicked jump shot, I'd get out there and do the shit, and then do the jump shot and 360 dunk, and then when all the people start to cheer, I snatch the mic and tell them, bung dung Babylon, bring down the system, god damn it. Hell's wrong with y'all. But I'm here, relatively small platform, so people that my haters, I think y'all hate me because I'm turning on that light and say, wake your ass up. When you was in a cozy, dark space, comfortable. It may not be positive. It may not be affirming, but it's familiar. And I know how familiarity. And then it's like when I go to flick on the light for other people, you know, because my grandma, she was raising me, my baby brother, and my big sister. And my sister was ahead of me in school. So sometimes when she was in high school and I was in middle school, she get woke up first. And she went to a private school and I was in public school. So she would start school before me. And I would hear her getting woke up. And I knew I wasn't about to get woke up. So I was kind of like, haha, sucks to be her. So when y'all see me, you ain't a Christian, but you see me call out the Christians, you cool. Like, yeah, BroDiallo really said it. He said something. He said some things he didn't have to say. And I hope he said it again. So you see me calling out other folks, believing other bullshit, it's good. But then when I get around to your bullshit, all of a sudden, y'all go from supporting me. I was going to use Kansas City slang. I try to reduce the level of regional slang. I want broad reach. I got, brothers and sisters listening to me from far and wide. I got black people listening to me and from places it shouldn't be no damn black people. What the hell? New Zealand? Nova Scotia? Korea, South Korea, like black, get from over there. Get from over around there. Get back over here. Get back to Harlem. Get back to the motherland. But anyway, so I try not to use too much regional slang, not to overindulge myself. But all I'm saying is to say, my haters, I understand you better. I understand you better. And let me give my haters some advice. If you really want to rise to the level of a high level BroDiallo hater, you can't come at me. You can't come at me, bro. I'm just not, it's just my position, my identity isn't really rooted in it. The only way to get me is to dissect my arguments and break down the holes in my arguments. That's it. Because that's the only thing I stand on. But you're not going to win even if you do that. Let's say I said something. You go dig up something from the BroDiallo archives, or I say something here today that is absolutely baseless, that can't be supported, that isn't reasonable, isn't logical, isn't viable. I sit here and say something that's really stupid. And then you come and be like, yeah, I got your ass. You think you know everything. This was wrong. And here's the support, here's the evidence, here's the argument. Gotcha. You haven't beat me. I feel like we both win. So even victories you win against me is a mutual victory because I'm going to take that and be like, wow, now I know better. And the next time I approach that topic or that issue, or I make a statement related to that, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to attribute you. I'm going to be like, yo, whoever hater number 6.5, classification 2D. Yeah, I got files on all my haters. I'm like, this dude then corrected me, he then told me, and now he's better. And then I'm going to be quoting every time I bring it up. I'm going to attribute you. So it's a mutual win. There's no way to defeat me. The only thing my haters can do is create mutual opportunities for victory and growth. So just a note, because the other day I say things, and man, I said something. One time I was watching, if you can go back and watch this, Dr. Khalid Abdul-Muhammad was on the Donahue show. And he was, doing the same thing, just telling people what they need to hear. And folks was outraged, hating. But then Donahue opened it up for the audience. This is my favorite shit. I love it. I watched that Donahue. I have it on VHS. I watched that shit. And he was like, we're going to go to the audience. And of course, he went to a whole bunch of white folks weeping and wailing and moaning and gnashing their teeth. We're going to go to the audience. What do you have to say? Well, I think in America, we all need to just get over it and come together. And Khalid's just sitting there like, whatever, dude. I was just here to get my message out. I ain't here to argue with white folks. But then he went to a brother. He went to a couple of Uncle Toms and a bunch of white folks that was just upset. But then he went to a brother who just looked like a run-of-the-mill brother. Brother had on like a tweed suit and a black tie and a low-cut fro. Very professional-looking brother. And he went and put the mic in his brother's head. And this brother grabbed the mic from Donahue and he said, I fast and I pray that Allah removes the white man. This is like NBC. This is like satellite network. This is the kind of them shows they freaking catalog in the U.S. Library of Congress. And this black man says, I fast and I pray that Allah removes the white demons from out of my way. He says something to that effect. It's been a while. But so now, whenever I long for something over which I have no agency, I just say, well, I fast and I pray. My wife and I say that all the time. We don't fast and we don't pray. But we say that to kind of give a hump to our point that we really desire this. So I just said casually, I don't even know I'd be saying it. Like the other night, my wife wanted to go see the meteor shower Saturday. And so we had to get up because, Chicago is just sick with light pollution. So one of the places you want to go if you want to see a starry sky is you go look at, you go out to the lakeshore, to like the lakeshore south of the downtown. And if you look out over the lake, because there's no buildings or lights out there, you can see like some night sky. You can see some of the constellations a little better. So we went out there to look at the meteor shower. And my son, we were like, well, call Aromo and see if Aromo wants to come. And so Aromo said, yeah. And it's like, listen, we're leaving at 2 a.m. to go see this meteor shower. So if you ain't ready, we're going to leave you. And so my wife came and said, so I told Aromo, I'm like, well, I fast and pray that he's ready, because if he ain't, we're going to leave his ass. Tell him, you better be up. It's early. So we just throw it around. So I just was on the Earn Your Liberation show. And I said, I fast and pray. And homegirl got in the comments in all caps. It's like, you don't pray, you motherfucker. Damn. Just hate, man, just oozing from the pores. So I figured I'd reach out to my haters and tell them the only way to get at me. There can be no defeat of BroDiallo. There can only be mutual victories. But, getting on here, spewing your delusions and pleading and begging for me to accept or support or ignore your delusions, that's not going to work. So the only way to defeat BroDiallo is to create opportunities for mutual victory. Because that's how I'm trying to defeat y'all. There's people I hate too. And what I want is the people that I be hating on is to correct their shit, get their shit together. So when you come, especially for black people in consciousness, radical blacks, when we do conflict, it's not about us defeating one another, but creating a space for a mutual victory. I'm a role model. Anyway, I was called, and it's been having something, it's tickled me. It's tickled me. Where I was called an absolutist and was talking about absolutism. And I had this dude go on like a multiple Twitter post. I had this dude going like create a Twitter thread. And I hear white people say they're dead naming X. It's supposed to be X. And since Twitter is platforming transphobes and homophobes, now they get to say we're going to dead name X and continue to call it Twitter. A little media beef. But anyway, this dude created a whole Twitter thread talking about how I'm an absolutist. And BroDiallo's absolutist, and he's an absolutism, and he's being absolute. You know I wasn't. And so I just responded because I felt obligated to respond because dude was just like fucking going to town, writing a dissertation on your boy. So I just put absolutist in quotation marks, and I put that meme from The Princess Bride where it says you keep using that word, I don't think it means what you think it means. And then he was like, oh, instead of going against my argument, you're just going to insult my intelligence. And man, listen, if your intelligence is so fragile that somebody suggests that you might be misusing a word, insult your intelligence, then your intelligence is too fragile. Maybe you shouldn't express your intelligence in a public forum. You couldn't take that. But anyway, folks is calling me absolutist, and they mad at me because I can't embrace a military coup and military rule. I, as a default status, my default status, when you get the factory and you haven't put in any upgrades, you haven't updated the software, if you rip me out the plastic, the default status of your BroDiallo figure will be one who stands in principled opposition to military coup d'etats and military rule. My default status is civilian democratic rule. That's it. That's it. I oppose military. And I hella oppose military governance. And you got some people out here, they all over their socials, they stop cop city. We don't want no cop city. And then they say, well, we support the military coup and the military dictatorial governance. And I'm like, and then they tell me, it's different. It's different. It's different when we, it's cool when we do it. It's a problem when they do it. Fuck them. Dude, when y'all be sharing these memes and shit that get stuck in my head, do y'all be listening to what y'all saying? Because y'all be living, walking the memes. Y'all be using these memes and you think it's projected out and making fun of everybody. But really, it's a lot of that shit doubles back and reverse Unos on you. And people here telling me you can't compare the U.S. military to Africa's military. Like, I can't. And then I go and look up the military regime and say, well, who armed these people? Who trained these people? What type of formation and structure does the military take? Many of them were in NATO, AFRICOM. I mean, we've had military, especially in Latin America and Africa. They literally had a school of the Americas. They had a school of the Americas. And in the school of the Americas, they would train foreign military generals. Israel does the same thing. Can't compare them. Like I used to say, I still say it, when the white man came, when Ronald Reagan, Margaret Thatcher, when white folks came and proposed to us neoliberal economics that included the trickle-down economic theory, meaning you remove all caps to profit, all caps and regulatory limitations on the accumulation of wealth, and let wealth heavily expand at the top, as opposed to implementing taxation and redistributive policies to put the money back amongst the workers. When you do that, the wealth will trickle down. When you let rich people acquire as much money, an unlimited amount of money, they will reinvest that money. And through their brilliant, because to get rich, you have to be brilliant. So if you're a brilliant person who gets rich, and if you're a brilliant person, you're also blessed by God. And if you're blessed by God, then your morality is on point, and you're a godly, brilliant person. So we won't regulate you, we won't tax you, let you accumulate billions of dollars, and that money will trickle down to the working classes and the poor. And black folks, back in the 80s when this shit first was proposed, we were outraged and we mocked it. We were flabbergasted and outraged, saying trickle down not work. Don't nobody, these stupid white folks, these honkies, gonna come to us and think they could trick us. We way too smart. White folks swallowed it hook, line, and sinker. Even white liberals were out voting for Democrats. And Ronald Reagan won by margins never seen before in the U.S. electoral politics. And so did Margaret Thatcher. What they call her, the Iron Lady. They had all kind of loving nicknames for Margaret Thatcher. But black folks, we refrain. You know, we step back and say, we don't want no parts of none of this shit. These white folks that lost their economic minds. But now, when rich celebrities, when Ice Cube came with a contract on Black America, when LeBron came with his vanity project, Nike Temple School, when Oprah comes, when that one thick neck Jabbo dude came and said, I'm going to pay off everybody's tuition, and I'm still waiting to see the receipts on that. When Slutty Vegan comes and gives a graduating class LLC, when we see black elites and wealthy blacks and prominent and leading blacks do trickle-down economics, we think it's the greatest thing in the world. It's cool when we do it. It's a problem when they do it. I don't understand. I can't comprehend. So we really think black people doing white people shit somehow is good. You know, George Bush, drone bombing atrocities, nightmare. Obama's drone bombing atrocities, protecting freedom. Military rule outside of Africa, it's a dictatorship. It's a military dictatorship. Military rule, take over the civilian government on the African continent, revolution. Houseway. And then I don't understand because I'm being absolutist. I'm being absolutist. When military dictatorship is literally absolute. The military, and one of the reasons why you don't want military rule, because militaries follow strict hierarchy. If you go and join the military, you don't get to question your superiors. You don't get to vote on who your superiors be. They don't try to reach a concession when they lay out the battle plans. They don't go and say, well, let's ask the privates. Let's bring the privates or the lower ranking people in. It's a chain of command. And theoretically, the people who govern us aren't our commanders. They're our servants. They're supposed to be the public servant. And if you go into the military talking about your lieutenant, your captain, the general is your servant, your ass is going in the brig. If you even suggest that, insubordination is a crime and you don't have freedom of speech or expression. You sit down in the military, you go there, they shave your head, they tell you how to dress, they make you all walk in unison. So just by default, I don't support military coups for a myriad of reasons. And I believe history is on my side. And they were like, well, you're being absolute because you refuse to look at a military as the revolutionary force. You refuse to see a military as a revolutionary force. And I'm not saying I refuse to see it. I just say I ain't seen it. I'll see it if it's put before me. I haven't seen it. I am willing to hear arguments, and I am willing to accept evidence if it can be presented to me. But people are literally going off of promises and rhetoric and promises, and ignore historical precedents, and picking sides when we don't have a dog in the fight, when there's nobody on the people's side. We picking sides, and we can't even tell the difference. And no matter how it's been decades of proxy wars fought on African soil, as Dale Jones says, black people bleeding and hacking each other to death over foreign ideologies and foreign interests. And people want to talk about a multipolar world. Where the fuck is there a multipolar world when all the parties in the conflict are capitalist? Various capitalist factions beating the shit out of each other is not a multipolar world. The world was a bipolar world when one of the superpowers in the conflict had an economic system and an ideological system that was diametrically opposed to the other side. It was communist versus capitalist, communalist, collectivist, planned economy versus a planned economy versus a free market economy. It was literally atheistic governance versus theistic governance. So people are out here talking about, oh, we're going back to a multipolar world. India is capitalist as fuck. China, I don't give a shit what their symbols. Like I said, the rhetoric and the promises, I go off of. Does China have billionaires? Are there Chinese billionaires? Are there Chinese mega corporations? Do Chinese workers govern and own the means of production? They ain't no motherfucking communism. Just like your American democracy is as authentic as Chinese communism. So you got communistic expansionist governments. I mean, capitalistic expansionists versus capitalist expansionists, and we think it's a multipolar conflict. That's like saying Apple versus Microsoft and picking sides in the conflict between Microsoft and Apple. Or what's it? It's Google and Apple, whatever the tech giants. That was the big battle. Everybody was saying who will prevail in these two operating systems, when they both had the same values, the same goals, and the same objectives, and the same point of view when it comes to African people. Forgive me. I love the rhetoric. I think the promises are hopeful. But goddamn, I'm gonna save my confetti. Y'all get out. Y'all shoot. Y'all blow your load. Y'all shoot off the confetti too fast. You know, I need some revolutionary foreplay before I let my mind go. I need a little more because we've been here before. We have been here before. We've had African military leaders, and then people want to. Everybody's throwing Thomas Sankara in my face. Thomas Sankara, military coup. Mom, Thomas Sankara. And the military murdered him. The military murdered him. Yes, he tried to use the military for revolutionary means, and the military murdered him. And y'all trying to use a man who was a righteous revolutionary African leader who was murdered by the goddamn military to justify your support for a military revolution, a revolution led by the military. I ain't seen it because the Lord knows. If I thought that there could be a military-led revolution, I don't. All my life, all I have ever gone around and done is tell black people, folks, stay out the military, don't enlist. I've lost jobs. Well, it's not really. I was self-employed, but part of that, my operations was because I received grants and funding from the city and state to work with young people. And they were like, listen, you're going to have to use your own money to go work with these people. We ain't giving you money no more. Because they said I went beyond my mandate. Because I was doing military de-recruitment. I was telling young people about the reality of military service and all of that. So I'm just not for military. And yes, even African militaries. I don't support religious delusions, even African religious delusions. You can't stab African on something that's fucked up and get me to swallow it. I'm sorry. I don't eat pork. And if you say, well, this is African pork, I'm still not eating it. I don't support military governance, but this is African military governance. Still don't. I'm just not. I mean, I love Africa. At least I believe I love Africa. At least I believe I do. At least I believe I do. But it's not enough. Garvey said race first. He didn't say race only. If Garvey said race only, I wouldn't support that. I'd be like, I don't agree with Garvey. I don't believe race is the only consideration. But I do accept that race should be the first consideration. So yeah, is it a black thing going on there? Oh, the race, they got the race box. Check. Yes, race first. What's the ideology? Anti-colonial. Oh, it's anti-colonial. Second box, check. Race first, check. Anti-colonial, check. What's the means and methodology? What is the methodology? Military coup d'etat. Whoa. I agree with the race. I agree with the stated goals and ideology. Don't agree with the methods. Now, I could be wrong. Haven't been wrong. And I ain't even going off of what I believe. I'm just going off of the historical record. And I understand the historical record can be deviated from. There can be a new precedent started. And I could be here in the next year or the next month saying, hey, we need more military coups in Africa, Central and Latin America. Let the Jamaican military take over the civilian Jamaican government. Every unjust, corrupt, neo-colonial government, the military rise up. I could be here. And if the evidence supported that, I would state it. And I would sit here and say I'm absolutely wrong about the military being a vanguard for a revolutionary movement. I will sit here and say that and say I was absolutely wrong. And I will say, like I said, you can't defeat me. It will be a mutual victory because I will have learned and grown and learned something new. And you would have been validated and right. But we ain't there yet. And y'all calling it too fast. Y'all calling it too fast. Race first is not an ideology. Race first, if somebody said race first is ideology, I'm sorry, brother. But race is not an ideology. Because within our race, we got Clarence Thomas. Within our race, we got Kanye West, a fucking Nazi. So if your ideology is race first, what the fuck do you do with that? How do you determine what to do with resources? Give it all to blacks? So race first is a position. It's a point of view, but it's not an ideology unto itself. It can be a component of your ideology. If you start, you can start with race first. But if you stop there, you all fucked up in the game. But I digress. But then people say I'm an absolutist because this is not an absolutist stance. If you understand what absolutism is, then I wouldn't care about the history. I wouldn't care about the precedent. I wouldn't care about the arguments. I wouldn't care about the evidence. I would be like, this is my stance, and I don't give a shit what you say. The people calling me absolutist are the absolutists. Militaries are absolutists. Go and find me an example of a revolutionary military dictatorship. And people are like, I don't like the word. I would say, I don't like the word dictatorship. So let's not call it a dictatorship. And I'm like, well, give me the characteristics of the government. Did the people vote the government in? Is there a civilian council or workers' councils or unions and artists and all part of the government? No. It's the head of a military, and he's the ultimate say in all things. Is there a judiciary? Is there a legislative? Is there then what the fuck you call it? Who is his competing factions? When is he going to be up for election or re-election? What is the process for unseating this leader? What is the process for invalidating his positions and proclamations? How do you challenge this leader? You can't challenge him. There's no way, there's no formal structural means embedded in how the government is structured, this current government. Is there anything embedded in that? Then it's a dictatorship. But people don't like saying, well, I support military coups and dictatorship, and they want to call military coups and dictatorships revolutionary now. Dale Jones said, we lose so much, we don't know what victory looks like. And then I said, I'm absolutist. I was called absolutist because I said, you can adjust, amend, change strategies, tactics, methods, allegiances. I said, but one thing you cannot change is your principles. Because once you change your principles, you have betrayed your principles. Now, oh, that's absolutist, that's absolutist. And I would love for someone to tell me how you can change your principle without betraying your principle. And just give me an example. That's just not how it works. You can't say, well, this is purified water. And once you contaminate the water, it's no longer pure water. Oh, that's absolutist. No, that's just a material reality. I have certain principles. I'm a radical. Radicalism is one of my core principles. Now, you can come and say, well, I don't think radical is viable. I don't think radical is necessary. Radicalism is necessary. I don't think it's viable. I don't even think it's possible to be a true radical. And we can have those discussions, but it's not an absolute position. Radicalism simply means seed, the seed. So when I look at any issue or when I take any position, especially in terms of politics, Black liberation and struggle, I must know what is at the root of this. I don't think it is appropriate to look at symptoms or look at the surface of an issue and draw conclusions or try to address the surface. I think anytime we want to make any structural or fundamental changes, whether it's in a person's individual life or in a society or in the globe, you have to do it from a radical standpoint. Meaning that, to me, Black businesses, Black CEOs, Black elected officials is not an adequate solution to the problems that affect Black people. From a radical perspective, a fundamental upending of the systems and institutions that govern and dominate our lives, a fundamental deconstruction of those systems and institutions, and a re-implementation or the conceptualization and construction of a whole new way of structuring human relationships, humans' relationships to one another, and human relationships to the resources we need to live and thrive. And the ecosystems and environments which we dwell have to be fucking dug up from the root and re-transformed. I'm a radical. And the moment I say, well, you don't have to go through all that, that's a bit much, I'm no longer a radical. And it might be the right thing to do. And I'm willing to hear an argument as to why radicalism is not viable, it's not legitimate, or why I should not take a position on radical. But the moment I abandon it, I'm not saying I'm not willing to abandon radicalism. But I understand the moment I abandon it, I can't claim it. A lot of times people want to do shit. People want to be like, what is this? Some dude came and told me I'm scientific and I'm spiritual, or spirituality is science. Yeah, y'all just want to claim shit. That's not principle. You just want to be every motherfucking thing. You can't be two contradictory things at the same time. So all I said was, I can change, like, well, I'm a radical, but the methods, the approach, the techniques, the timelines, the trajectory, there's so much shit related to radicalism I can play around with. But the moment I'm no longer a radical, then I can't be a radical. That's not an absolutist position. Same thing, veganism. I'm a vegan. And you can be a vegan who eats that Beyond Meat shit and that fucking GMO pea protein shit. You could be a vegan who eats Twizzlers and Oreo cookies. Or you could be a organic, green, locally sourced vegan. There's a wide range of veganism. You can be a waif thin vegan. You could be a morbidly obese vegan. Within veganism, there's a whole lot of shit you can be. But the moment you eat the swine, the moment you eat some gristle, the moment you drink the excretions of a cow, you're no longer a vegan. That's not absolutist. You is or you ain't. We can even argue the health benefits and the risk and liabilities of vegan, all of that. So people are calling me an absolutist when I'm simply saying there's not enough evidence available to me, and there hasn't been a sound argument presented to me for me to adjust my position. And I even say I hope I'm wrong. And well, people is like, well, you won't accept the promises, and you won't embrace the rhetoric, and you won't rest on that, you're absolutist. I'm an atheist. But the moment I see evidence of the divine, the moment I see evidence of the supernatural, I will fall to my knees, just like y'all holy book says. I will fall to my knees and proclaim. I'll do it. Won't even be upset about it. Won't even be mad about it. I'm a secularist. So if you compromise principles, if you divert from your principles, you have betrayed or abandoned your principles. That's not an absolutist position. That's just structural by the definition. If you don't like that word, don't claim to be a principled person. You say, hey, I'm not principled. I'm very malleable. Depending on what room I'm in, depending on what type of day, depending on what tools and resources available to me, I will change up on your ass real quick. Just be honest. I accept evidence. I accept sound arguments. So you want to call me an absolutist, and dude says he wants to engage. He wants me to jump on the Twitter thread and go back and forth with him about me being absolutist. You don't know what that word means. If you want to see it, go to Twitter, and he's tagging me and everything. Y'all don't know what absolute. In fact, I'm not an absolutist. I just seem like an absolutist because, I don't even know where that came from. They kept throwing it, and people I respect call me an absolutist, but I'm not. I don't lock down on shit. Everything's open for discussion and debate. But goddamn it, where's your evidence? You'd be like, well, I feel good about this. Me like it. I love it. So therefore, it's justified. That's not how you justify shit, just based on how you feel. And based on the rhetoric. Show me the material reality. In totality. But we do that. I mean, we want to see Africa liberated. We want to see Africa decolonized. We want to see the goddamn bloodthirsty parasitic crackers to get the fuck off our soil. We want that. We love Africans taking a stand, taking up arms, and ousting foreign. But here's the thing about love, especially when it's brand new. You start to overlook the red flags. You start seeing things the way you want to see it, not as they are. You start hearing what you want to hear instead of what's said. Our love for Africa needs to be true love, not infatuation. You know, that is not a new fling. There are Africans, brothers and sisters, and you know how you are with your brother and sisters. You real with it. You love your brother and sister. You look at their flaws. You tell them about themselves. You check them. This is not a fling. But hip hop. Let's move on. God damn, what time is it? Oh, it is. Okay. Y'all know I've been at war with these clocks. Time is a white man's fabrication. I've been at war with these clocks. And I didn't even went so far as to pull the clocks off the wall to show y'all. I got 1, 2, 3 different clocks here. Not even counting the one on my wrist. 3 different clocks. Well, I got 4 different clocks in my face. And 3 different times. I got 4 clocks with 4 different times. So if I'm off on time, it's not my fault. But I'm going to go ahead and say, because I can't say I'll average the time, it is 8 a.m. in the city of Chicago. You're listening to Q4 Radio, BroDiallo broadcast. Like, share, subscribe. My timing is so off. I can't be talking greasy to people the whole morning and then ask y'all for money. God damn, I got to get my shit together. Anyway, I'm going to ask y'all for money after talking greasy for an hour. Like, share, subscribe, support, woo, 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 woo. Do all that, y'all. And if likes, do the thing. Put the thing on the thing to help the thing keep going, man. Support the BroDiallo broadcast. CashApp, PayPal, Patreon, the subscribe button, the share button, the like button, the comment section. Do all that. I don't know. Is that too aggressive? Please. I don't know. I'll bring a puppy in here or something. What's more likely to get money? I bring some women up in here to twerk. Booty, rock it everywhere. Or should I bring a puppy? Should I go for sympathy or for carnal lust? What should I do? Come in here with my shirt off and force y'all to pay me to put it back on. I don't know. I just, fundraising has never been my strong suit. But I need your help if I'm going to stay here subjecting myself to all these folks. BroDiallo. But if you like the BroDiallo broadcast and want to see it continue, please, from wherever position you are and whatever means available to you, please support it. That's that. I am listener funded. I am listener sponsored. I work for the people. And like I said, I don't want to have to picket and protest. This is the time. I ain't got no corporate sponsorships. I ain't got no major partnerships, no kind of or minor partnership. So if I go out on strike, I'm striking against my whole race. I'm striking against my listeners. I have to go to each and every one of y'all house with a sign and an inflatable rat. Anyway, hip hop, man. This hip hop thing is kind of eating me a lot. It's hurting my heart. It hurts my heart. Like hip hop history, 50 years. Reminds me, KRS-One said, because rap on the whole isn't even 20 years old. 50 years down the line, you can start this because we'll be the old school artists. And even at that time, I'll say a rhyme, a brand new style, ruthless and wild, running around, spending money, having fun. Because even then, I'm still number one. Go listen to Still Number One. Shout out to KRS-One, his mother's first son. And I know he'll never run. Anyway. Hip hop at 50 is a history of, to me, from my point of view, of conquest, not resistance. So if you're gonna write the history of hip hop and you have a well-organized bookstore, so you would put hip hop in the history section. Would it be under resistance? Would it be on a bookshelf next to the Bolivian Diaries? Would it be on the book next to what's Kwame Ture's book on the tactics of guerrilla warfare? Would it be on the shelf with like that book Revolution in 3-Point Harmony and the Resistance Inside? Would it be on the book that tells the history of Black resistance? or would it be on the shelf that tells the history of white conquest? And I have to conclude, the history of hip-hop is the history of white conquest. You know, I could see my great-grandchildren or the grandchildren of my children having to be sat down and be told, those little black kids sat down and be told, you know, hip-hop started in the black community. Like I had to be told that rock and roll was black. Like I had to be told that folk music and country music was a black art form. You know, there used to be black folks. When I go see Ron Carter, I go to a jazz and it's mostly whites. I go see Gil Scott-Heron, a living icon at that time at SOB, predominantly white audience. And whenever you got a predominantly white audience, man, let me tell you something. When white folks arrive at your shores, they're not there as tourists. When white folks arrive at the shores, whether it is literal shores or figurative and symbolic shores, when white folks are in the audience, they intend to overtake the stage. They don't know how to be participants and they don't know how to share. And if you're white and you're mad at me, go show me where y'all shared in anything. Show me. The only way to maintain anything as a non-white person is to the conscious, deliberate exclusion of white people. If I'm lying, I'm flying. If I'm lying, I'm fucking flying. Show me where white folks were allowed to come into something and they stayed in their lane, where they were happy as participants, where they were happy as partners. Show me. Every music genre. So in the year 2050, 2075, we're going to be sitting around. They don't play that shit. And black people, just like we arguing about who the true Egyptians were. Who the real rock and roll, the father of rock and roll. So culture banditry, mimicry. We have to argue with them about who the founders of civilization. And black people are always playing catch up. So anyway, I want to share a poem with y'all that I wrote more than 20 years ago. I wrote this over 20 years ago, and I feel like I could have wrote it yesterday. It's called Hip Hop. And back then, I don't really like my old poetry because, again, my ideology was not as refined. But anyway, I'll just share the poem, and then I'm going to go on and talk about something else. It's called Hip Hop. Hip-hop has been colonized by those who despised it just a decade ago. Platinum MCs changed their flow and lightened up the slang so white youth would know the code of street lingo. For profit, they're relating their material to stereotypes that are perpetual. It's spreading like an Asian flu. To all forms of black expression, the lessons of the past are being ignored and true heads are bored with this substance-free, flamboyant bullshit being spit on rap discs. They had discs back then. I can spot them a mile away with a rifle scope, corrupt like the Pope. White folks lusting after black art, claiming they've been down from the start, pop locking, head spinning, devilish grinning. Whole niggas scrambling for the money they spending. Y'all rich niggas have to admit, when y'all get money, y'all get scared and shit. Can't imagine living without it, so you're no longer a threat, no matter how much rage you inject into the studio set. It's just entertainment. Ask DMX. He ain't toting the tech. He probably goes with bodyguards to deposit his checks while black youth die or end up doing time over shit Jay-Z brags about in his rhymes. White kids study for SATs while listening to black MCs. For them, it's entertainment. For us, reality. Who you representing when you rapping for white? You see, hip-hop ain't universal. Racism is. So why is most rap consumed by white kids? When we have a commodity, we share it for free. Why don't Chinese share their factories? Why don't Japan share their auto industries? Why don't America accept you and me? It's simple. They want to protect what's theirs and have a legacy to pass on to their heirs. We, on the other hand, are willing to let any man profit from our shit and claim it as their own. I will never condone infiltration of black culture by these vultures. You ain't my man if you're a descendant of the Klan. It's sick how black rappers and athletes work so hard to compete for the attention of preteen slackers. providing income for these crackers. MCs packing stadiums to collect lump sums while we still live in the slums. So call me a player, hater, or a buster, because you a whitey lover and a money luster. You done sold your soul for fame or ride in South African gold. Now, I wrote this over 20 years ago, and that's kind of my conclusion. I'm a fan of hip hop, but to me, I can never, ever look at or consider hip hop outside of the context of Black struggle and Black oppression. Everything that Black people do can be defined in two categories. It either contributes to our liberation or it perpetuates our oppression. There's no neutral. So whether you want to break it down by the genre as a whole or go each individual artist, how does the scale tip? Has hip hop been a factor in our liberation, or has it been a factor in our ongoing oppression? Now I'll let you answer that yourself. I already said how I feel about it. Shout out to all the conscious MCs, all the revolutionary MCs that I could probably name on two hands out of the thousands of these motherfucking minstrels out here. And I'm not saying you can't have fun. I'm not saying you can't shake your head. I'm not telling you you can't go to Pound Town. It's all good. But you have to do that with the full consciousness that the number one financiers, the number one directors, the owners and controllers are white folks. This ain't like back in the day when Black folks would come together and go to the juke joint. You at the rent party in the projects where we can engage our culture. We can do our music amongst ourselves and with ourselves. When you're doing that shit on the global stage, it hit different. I grew up and I used to love MC Blowfly and Rap Dirty. I remember my homie Sage went out and bought the cassette for Choice. And we sat and listened to Choice and The Big Payback, and that was the hot song. And then the song that came after that was Pipe Dreams. And we're like, whoa, salacious. But it was amongst us in our culture, in our community. But when we commodify and package our shit to sell to other people and we have no control over that, when other people commodify and package our shit and sell it back to us, that's colonialism. And y'all praising the Sahel, Niger, Burkina Faso, y'all praising them brothers for their decolonization efforts. And at the same time, y'all celebrating one of the most colonized cultural products in the history of modern society. Hip hop is colonized. So are you for or anti-colonization? Meek Mills came out about a week ago and said, they pay us extra money to do bad music. The money is better. They pay us to put out negative hip hop. And everybody was like, wow, Meek Mill's telling some truth. Oh, you some kind of idiot. As if we didn't know. You needed Meek Mill to tell you that. And Meek Mill took the money. So Meek Mill is not dropping some bombs. He's not shedding some light. He's confessing to a crime. He's confessing to a crime. And we sitting here acting like he's doing something positive. We lose so much, we don't know what a victory looks like. Fuck Meek Mill. Yeah, I took money to engage in genocidal propaganda against my own race. And you should be sorry for me. Because if the white man didn't give me the money, I wouldn't have never did it. Then you're selling that. What? And I'm like, why is everybody sharing this like he's dropping bombs? The blood clots. Anyway, what are we talking about? Lord have mercy. Oh, I got some good news. Before I get into Christian, I don't want to talk about Christian nationalism. Why did I even make that the top? I'm sick of this shit. From now, I'm just going to talk about shit I want to talk about. This is going to be I'm going to switch the content to 40K lore. I'm talking about the Tau empires and Primarchs and orcs. I'm going to switch this. I just want to talk about good shit. I'm tired. And I know y'all, that's too damn bad. Nobody cares about you being tired. Let's progress. But anyway, before I get into the bad news, some more bad news. And y'all watching The Wiz again? Y'all, I see y'all getting Netflix and put out The Wiz, and y'all watching The Wiz again? That colorist nightmare? There was a boycott in the 80s. They attempted to boycott The Wiz because you had this light-skinned angel flush a dark-skinned black woman with African features down the toilet. And folks was like, man, listen, The Wiz is colorism on fucking mushrooms. Shrooms and colorism. The Tau, listen, people mad. You want to talk about the Tau? Yes, the Guevesa. Yeah, let's talk about 40K lore. So the Tau, who are the space socialists, they fight for the greater good. And yes, the Guevesa are the humans who have joined the Tau empire. And there's been some undocumented, unconfirmed cases of the Tau empire sterilizing the Guevesa, which is sterilizing humans. But it's for the greater good, so how can you question it? And we can get into that next week. This is going to be from the Pan-African perspective. Well, I'm going to switch the show to 40. I'd probably get more support too. Yeah, but I digress. Where was I? Oh, I wanted to tell some good news. Yeezys are back on the market. Adidas has been forced through court order to release their stock. Yes, I am a heretic. I'm a heretic in 40K, and I'm a heretic in the real world. I am a heretic. Blaspheming. That's true. Anyway, we got another 40K supporter in here. Yeah, that's fine. But anyway, Yeezys are back on the market. Yay! Yeezys for all you chump suckers, scallywaps, and idiots who would have enough, your self-esteem and your racial solidarity is low enough where you would go out and buy some goddamn Yeezys. They back on the market, so you can get the new shit. Because when you've been buying Yeezys for like the last year, that's all the shit from the back, from that the retailers had. But now they went to the Adidas warehouse and they're gonna put all that shit out. And they already made like $500 million in pre-orders. But there's one caveat. The shoes are gonna come with, I kid you not, a stand up to Jewish hate pin. So not only do you get you a free pair of Yeezys, you get the symbol of the fight against anti-Semitism, the fight Jewish hate pin. And so every shoe is going to come with a pin and a written statement from Adidas saying that we stand against anti-Semitism, we stand with the Jewish community, blah, blah, blah. So you have to support the fight against now Yeezy shoes are going to fund and support and spread the message of ending anti-Semitism. So that's good news for all you chump suckers, fools, coons, and sellouts, and low self-esteem having, your low racial esteem having, that would wear a pair of Yeezys. And here's another thing that's meant to side. This is what I can't stand, because I see black folks out here. I see people scrambling. I just went to this hype beast store called Success, where they sell Jordans and Yeezys and all that overpriced plastic shit, sweatshop shit. And I went to Success, and they had Yeezys behind a bulletproof glass. They had Yeezys behind bulletproof glass. And this is what hurts my heart. I don't give a shit about Cunha. Hate that dude's guts. I hated him before he came out full-blown Nazi, white nationalist. But this is a good segue into Christian nationalism, because Kanye West is a Christian nationalist. Black people as a whole, as a community, can't tell the difference between a race defender and a race traitor. We cannot tell the difference. Forget about being able to fight. Forget about resistance. Forget about standing up to forces that seek to harm us. We can't even identify allies and enemies. Like on the stage of struggle, on the stage of power, on the stage of revolution, you ever go to a game and there's that kid that shoots the ball into the opponent's goal, or the kid that gets the kickoff return and runs the football into the other guy's end zone or whatever, scoring for the other fucking team? We got a dude like Kanye West out here scoring for the other team, and we as black people still cheering him on because he scored for the other team with such finesse. The way he moves on the field is so incredible, even though all of his talent and all of his skill is going for the other team and scoring for the other team, we still cheer for him. That's scary to me. That's what fucks me up. And I don't care even about people being sellouts. I don't care about people being disloyal. But you can't even identify when you confuse disloyalty with loyalty. You really think Kanye fight, and he got so-called educated and scholarly and informed, conscious, woke black people out here. Kanye telling the truth. Kanye telling the truth. And we really think he's trying to defend the black masses from the Jewish cabal. When Yeezys literally went from supposedly supporting people who engage in economic exploitation to embracing the people who engage in extermination. And we so focus on the fact that he has this false sense of talking about economic exploitation. Yeah, he's going to stop people from stealing and stop people. And then the dude went from saying, God is using me to show out, I'm a billionaire, to they took all my money. Which is it? And y'all don't even take a moment to step back and say, wait, Yeezy, you said God was using you to sell out and you got all this money and you're wealthy. And then you said the Jews took all your money. Did they take all your money, or are you God using you to show out? Which is it? We don't even care. Because like I said, even though he's scoring for the other team, he's scoring for the other team with so much finesse. We don't even know which fucking team is our team. We don't even know that neither team belongs to us. And that the same person owns not only both teams, but the stadium, the ticket, the concession stands, and own the whole shit, and don't even know, hey, we shouldn't even be in this motherfucking stadium, let alone trying to figure out which team to root for. We should go outside and burn the whole motherfucker down. I can't even get y'all to identify nothing. Listen, man. Listen. If you support Kanye West in any capacity, in his the Jews and that empty ass bullshit rhetoric he's spewing that he learned, when a man sits there and tells you, I don't read books, I refuse to read, I just make shit up as I go along. If you look for him for any type of input, you got some issues. But I'm saying if you support Kanye, whether wearing his shitty ass clothes, or I don't care if you listen to his music. If you like that shit, that Jesus walk bullshit, go listen to it. I don't care. You can listen. I listen to problematic people. My wife is a hater. I can't play it on the studio system, but when I'm in my headphones, when I'm working out or out on a walk on my own, I put on some Willie D. I listen to some Willie D. I listen to problematic artists, but I have to tell you, I just don't put no money in their pocket. Bootleg it. Rip it. Strip it. Whatever. Like my cousin, he likes Yeezy's music. And he went out and bought a bootleg Yee t-shirt. Now, my problem is that you out here promoting this motherfucker, but at least if you got a coon, coon with a little dignity. So he says, everything I own from Yeezy is pure bootleg, swap shop, swap meet shit. So find a way. Stick it to the man and stick it to the coon. But anyway, let's move on. Yeezys is back in the store. And I'm glad Yeezys are back in the store because that's how, I look at shoes. I'm black as hell. I'm black as hell. I may not portray it. I may not rep it as properly as I should. I'm black as fuck, y'all. So you know what I do, just like every other black person. I see somebody, I know them, I don't know them. First thing I'm gonna do is look at your shoes. That's black as shit. My wife, she never notices shoes. And she gets tired of me pointing out shoes. Hey, look at them Jordans. Look at them Yeezys. Look at that coon wearing them Yeezys. My wife is like, what? What? I don't know one shoe from the next. I know pretty shoe, ugly shoe. That's all she knows. She don't understand the clout, the styling on them. She don't understand what's behind the shoe, what the shoes say about the person. Black people spending, behind on their rent to get nice shoes because really real black folks know shoes. So anyway, I'm glad. I call it the new Negro self-exposure protocol. You self-expose. So you go put on the clown shoes. I know you're a goddamn clown and try to tell me. I'm going to assume you're a clown. And to evidence, I'm not absolutist, though. But if you come to say, man, this shit is bootleg. But y'all see me, I got me a Steph Curry jersey, and I got me a LeBron James jersey. But I tell you what, I ain't paid for neither one of them motherfuckers. I ain't paid for neither one of them. If you see me in some Jordans, best believe I ain't spent a dime on them motherfuckers. Somebody gave them to me. I ain't starting. I don't stick people up, especially not for Jordan. If I'm robbing somebody, I promise you it won't be for them ugly ass shoes. If you see me in some of that coon self-exposure type shit, believe you me. If you see me in Yeezys or Jordans, I'm cutting the grass. I'm in my garden. I'm trying to disrespect them shits. I ain't out trying to finesse and style on y'all. Anyway, what the fuck? Let's talk about theology. Let's talk about religion. As if I haven't pissed off enough people. Let me see whoever is still listening. Still got some people listening. Y'all still with me. Bless your heart. Let's talk about Christian nationalism. And what I really wanted to call this, but I thought it would kind of go over people's heads. And forgive me if it doesn't. Maybe I think maybe I need to humble myself. But I wanted to say this, that I didn't think this was a title that people would click on. I wanted to call it theocratic malpractice. Because, I was thinking about something. I was a former allied health professional. I've worked in medical facilities. I've worked in schools, from a clinical instructor to being a teacher, substitute teacher, and gardening. And I've worked in several fields in my long, scandal-ridden life. And everywhere I go, even when my very first job was at Rally Burgers, and I was a sandwich maker at Rally Burgers, and they put me on the line. That's my very first paycheck job. That wasn't my first job. I used to do yard work and raking. All my job. That's my first Social Security W-2 form job. I've been working since I was 8 years old. Since I could grab a shovel and go door to door to shovel snow, rake leaves. Black thing. Proletariat. Oh, the calluses on my hand. Anyway, my very first job that I had, from where I was salaried, where I was a professional, working in a professional field, a union worker, an entry-level worker. I don't think, I've had a few like managerial type administrative positions. One thing I always had to go through is the ethics and codes of that field. I've also been a business owner. So you have to go get certain licenses. You have to fill out certain forms. You have to take certain mandated classes, or at least your employees have to. Or I would go take the mandated classes, and then I'd have to put that certificate on the wall in public display, and I had to be over instructing they weren't really employees, they were co-owners. It was a cooperative business. Until I sold it, and then, but anyway. What I've always realized is in every field, no matter how technical or how minor There's a certain code of ethics, and there's a certain thing called malpractice, right? That whether you making sandwiches and flipping burgers, and how you keep the meat, the appropriate way to store the meat, the appropriate way to serve the meat, the appropriate way to dispose of the waste. And it's all regulated, and it's all overseen. And there are penalties and consequences and fines that if you violate these certain codes, if you work in the medical field, you can engage in malpractice, but it's not even limited to malpractice. But we all understand medical malpractice and medical and ethics. But even in the legal arena, I remember we were having these legal contractual issues with this guy, scumbag, and his wife was a lawyer. And I remember as we were going through proceedings, they were like, well, because his wife is a lawyer and if she's going to represent him, there's certain ethical things, and really the bar frowns upon spouses representing spouses. And it was all these technical and principled and ethical considerations. Even in the financial sector, the most corrupt sector of the economy, the most corrupt sector of the society, which is not even politics. I believe that finance and capital, banking and investments, commodities markets are the most corrupt component of this society. And a lot of the corruption that we find in the police departments and in the medical field and science and universities and even the government are born out of the finance and the need and drive from. So the financial sector, which is the most corrupt sector in the most corrupt society I've ever seen in my life. And even in that, there are ethics, there are practices that you can violate. Even in the military, the bloodthirsty imperialist army has practices and methods and codes. But the one element of society where there is no malpractice, there are no fixed ethics and standards, is religion. Explain that to me. Like, you can literally go to a doctor and you tell the doctor, I have this ailment. Then the doctor's going to treat that ailment. And the doctor can't say to you, I have the cure. And if you do this, you pay me and I will cure you. And the doctor says that, and he cannot demonstrate that, and he doesn't cure you, you can take his ass to court. Medical malpractice. You go to church, you go to a church and you say, Doctor, oh Lord, I got this ailment. And the preacher say, the Lord will heal you. And I'm going to pray and lay hands and God's going to come, Lord. And you could die the next day and you can't sue that goddamn pastor for malpractice. You can go to your banker and say, well, banker, I'd like me a mortgage. I'd like to buy a house. And they say, well, we will finance this house to the tune of $185,000. I know people are like, where you going to get a house for $185,000? In the hood. And because you just is a black person trying to buy a home in the hood. And so I want to buy this house, and they give you this money, and you sign on the dotted line, and you put up your collateral, and they run your credit, and then you find the house, and then the bank comes to you, and they say, okay, and the seller and the agent and everybody, the seller is there, and the bank comes to you. It's like, we ain't got no money. We didn't have no. I know I promised that. I know I took your money, and I took your deposit, but I ain't got the money. That banker's going to jail. That bank branch is getting fined. But you go pay the church fund, which my grandmother paid into a church fund for over 4 decades and never got a fucking church. That church fund hustle, that building hustle, we all know it. It's a running joke. It's a meme in the hood. The church fund, the new church fund. And I ain't seen no pastor come out. Where are the ethics? Where's the code? Where's the malpractice? And they supposed to, and I know people be like, well, in religions, in the mosque, in the tabernacle, in the temple, in the synagogue, our code comes from the Bible, comes from the Torah, the Bhagavad Gita, from the Holy Quran. But if you look in those fucking books, they're nightmares. They're nightmarish stories. There's no, let me tell you something, and I'll put this. There are no standards like other academic and professional fields. There's the standards and regulations. If you impose the most basic standards, ethics for telling the truth, the most basic academic standards. If you get up in front of the classroom, and you tell the children something that is incorrect or not true, you can be fined, you can be written up, you will be evaluated. I've worked in classrooms and there's been a person in the back with a clipboard sitting in the back of the class listening to and taking notes on everything I say and see if what I say aligns and comports with academic standards. When I was a radiographer, every 2 years, I had to go and get continuing education credits. You can be somebody, I could go home and lay down in the bed tomorrow and wake up and say, the Lord has put it on my heart to go out into the world and to teach his flock, to guard his flock to glory. And I could open a building and I could bring in $10 million a year tax-free, talking utter nonsense, and no one will be able to evaluate, even if they say, well, brother, you claim to be Presbyterian and you're inconsistent. Well, I'm like, well, I'm new Presbyterian. Well, the new Presbyterian says that what you're teaching is, well, I'm not new, I'm new Reformed Presbyterian. Well, brother, new Reformed Presbyterian, you see, well, I'm new Reformed Southern Presbyterian. And all you got to do is add a new name to that shit and you just make a new one. I'm Baptist. Well, this is what I don't want to do all that shit. Baptists do too much. I'm Southern Baptist. Oh, I don't want to do that. So I'm Southern Orthodox Baptist. I'm Southern Orthodox Reformed Baptist. And they just add names. And here we are looking at this shit happen in real time. In real time. Well, I live in the big city. Somebody say $185,000 for a house. Shit. I live on the south side of Chicago. And that's what they saw in the prices in the slums. But anyway, I digress. Especially with Obama coming with that goddamn Obama's presidential center, gentrification, driving out home artists and driving people out. But all right, let me stay on top. So we look at this shit happen in real time. One of the most powerful, wealthy, and influential institutions in every society. The religion. And you all feel it. I tell, because I know some good Christians. I know some good Muslims. Lord, I know, bless their hearts. I know good Christians and I know some good Muslims. But I have to be, because they're good, I say you're not good because of Christianity. You're good in spite of Christianity. It is the most hollow, baseless, absurdist thing, and it has too much power in our society. Religion should not have the power and influence and impact that it has on not just our society, not just on the Black community, but humanity as a whole. That's my ultimate point. Christian nationalism is taking hold and spreading throughout the United States as a complement to fascism and capitalism. Capitalism's contradictions are coming to the fore. People are realizing the lies of capitalism. That capitalism is not just destroying families, not just destroying communities, but it's destroying the ecosystem. And to head off, as more and more people become ravaged by capitalism, the capitalists are financing and supporting any type of ideology, any type of institution that will prevent the masses of the people from identifying the source of their problem and pulling themselves and bringing themselves together to confront the source of the destruction of our lives and the destructions of our futures, the destruction of the ecosystem. So the churches have always been a buffer. The delusions, the nonsense, the utter fantasy and myths that have been taught by the religious, established, formal religions and cults have always served as a buffer, or as they say, religion is the handmaiden of conquest. or better yet, religion, or as Kwame Ture said, before they send in the Marines, they always send in the missionaries. Because even if the missionaries are successful, they don't even have to send in the Marines. And I'm seeing more and more religious delusions, more and more religion, as though it is one of the most delegitimized and illegitimate sources of information, knowledge, growth, power, morality. We know. Religious ethics are weaker than secular ethics. If you become a professional theocrat, if you become a theologian, if you become a pastor, a minister, a rabbi, an imam, the ethics and standards that you have to follow are lower than a line cook at McDonald's. A line cook at McDonald's has more responsibility and more accountability in their craft. A preschool teacher, a daycare worker who does nothing but wipe noses and butts all day, not trying to disparage, Lord bless child care workers. There should be more of them and pay them more. Every child care worker should be a six-figure earner. I'm not trying to disparage. But you take a child care worker, they have more oversight, training, ethics, and standards than somebody who's leading the flock, who's not only dictating and trying to direct your life, they're going to dictate and direct your afterlife. And we accept it because these men are guided by God. But if I go to any place else and says, listen, I don't need certification, I don't need oversight, I don't need ethics, I don't need protocols and standards, I have God that works nowhere but the church. And you can say, well, I accept that, knowing goddamn well if you went to a mechanic and the mechanic's like, where'd you get your, well, shoot, I asked the Lord to guide my hand as I'm working on your brakes. Lord, guide my hand. Now you'll go sit in you'll take your ass to the hospital and sit in the waiting room and say, oh God, guide the hand of the surgeon as they work on your loved one. God, be there. Bless that surgeon. Bless that anesthesiologist. Yeah. But you know damn well if that anesthesiologist walked into the room and you went into his office and you didn't see no degrees on there and he was like, well, I'm not actually, didn't go to school. I went to church. I went to the Lord. I sat at the feet of the master to learn my skill. You wouldn't let that person touch your loved one. Y'all know this shit ain't shit. Why does it still have such prominence and power? Why, whenever you line up 100 black leaders in any community at any stage of our existence in this country, you line up 100 black leaders, 99 of them motherfuckers are going to be reverend, minister, brother, doctor. They're going to all be theocrats. We stay losing. We stay struggling. We stay regressing, but we stay with the same form of theocratic leadership and theocratic hierarchy. And people get mad at me saying I need to let people believe what they want to believe, as if a person's belief does not impact everybody around them. Let me believe what I want to believe. And I'm like, well, I can let you believe what you want to believe, but that's only if your beliefs do not impact your behavior. And if your beliefs don't impact your behavior, I still can't trust you because that's literally a psychopath. So no, not only am I not going to let you believe what you believe, not in terms of changing your mind, but in terms of if you assert or announce this is what you believe, I'm going to deal with you accordingly. If you are a theocratic person, I'm going to have less. If you are a religious, spiritual person, I'm going to have less confidence in you. I'm going to have less confidence in you because I know you could fuck me over and go home and say a little prayer and all shit is forgiven. I do not believe if I wrong another person, I don't have any outlet. If I do somebody wrong, my only recourse is to either go to that person and seek somehow to make amends to that person or carry that wrong thing that I did. There is no absolution. my sins cannot be forgiven. How's somebody going to wrong you and then go ask God for forgiveness? Ask God for forgiveness for shit you did against God. Don't ask God for forgiveness for what you did against me. God don't have my permission to forgive nobody for nothing he does to me. These religion, which people falsely tell us is the foundation for morality, which is the foundation for righteousness, which is the foundation for our very humanity, is the weakest, which is why the world is so inhumane. Human morality is superior to religious morality. Human morality is superior to God's morality. I'm more righteous in justice than your God because I wouldn't kill off a bunch of people. I wouldn't require a bloody sacrifice. I wouldn't require a bloody sacrifice for me to forgive people or to save people. I would not hold the power to stop pain, suffering, starvation, and disease and withhold that so you can learn some lesson. I would not hide away and talk to people through patterns in water stains or whisper to corrupt, swine-eating idiots in their sleep and give them a message to go speak on my behalf. But we allow that. If you have a personal belief system, you should be the number one critic of that belief system. Because I believed. I was a believer. And not only were my questions not answered, I was told I didn't have the right to ask the questions. And that sent me on a spiral. I was baptized at 12 and I left the church by 14, but I was still a believer well into my late 20s. I believed in there's some type of God. I was finding ways. Maybe it's Haile Selassie. Maybe I'm God. Maybe I'm Allah. I got arm, leg, arm, head. Maybe I'm God. I still believe there was some supernatural divine force. And I had to find the right rituals, erect a shrine, join and go into the right community to join that force. And I'm like, why am I forcing myself to see something that's not there? And I'm like, I'm done with this make-believe shit. And I do believe that it is a central component to Pan-African liberation. And people look at me and all the time say, you never gonna stop black people from believing. You never gonna, we are a spiritual people. None of that stands up to evidence. None of that stands up to evidence. So now that Christian nationalism is emerging from the oppressors, Christian nationalism is an attempt to divert the just rage that is produced by capitalist hyper-exploitation. It is a shunt or a vent for the white masses to understand or to rationalize what capitalism has done for them. The Christian nationalists are scapegoating and attacking vulnerable populations and unreal entities. And they are being goaded, funded, and directed by the elites who don't believe none of that shit. And it is a grand threat to the black masses because we know that the ultimate goal of fascism is genocide. That's the ultimate outcome, massive murder orgies. And even worse than that, many black people, through centuries of Christian indoctrination or religious indoctrination in general, are very susceptible to embrace the ideas, the goals, the values of the Christian fascists. And I have to say something else. There's no such thing as a good Christian. Because you can't be a Christian and good. There's no such thing as a good Muslim, a good Jew. I'm not even going to get to Hindu, because religions are rising up and wreaking havoc everywhere. It's a maladaptation. You got fake world, artificial understandings of real world problems. But you in Africa, religious extremism is burning and fucking shit up everywhere. You got religious extremists in Africa, Christian extremists murdering and lynching people. It's flawed from the foundation. You got Zionists. I ain't got to tell you about the Zionist atrocity. Jewish faith, the Hebrew faith that is being used to justify genocide. Hindu nationalism. They're lynching and murdering Muslims. And women, gang raping women in the name of the Hindu gods and nationalism. I ain't got to tell you about the Islamic oligarchies. How religion is driving ecocide. And as the real world becomes more chaotic, the real world and ecosystems become more disrupted, as reality becomes less present, more and more people escape into fantasy. And as they escape into fantasy and they don't get relief, so you run to, I'm just going to trust in the Lord. I'm just going to lean on the Lord. And then the problems still perpetuate. So as the problems perpetuate, then you begin angry. You're in that same space of fantasy, but the rage doesn't dissipate. So what the fantasy does, instead of helping to dissipate the rage, it fuels the rage. So you're in a state of illogic, unreason, and rage. But if you're raged, I understand and I accept, I respect, and I acknowledge and support your rage. But that rage needs to be married to an analysis, to logic, to reason and evidence. I'm being done wrong. I'm being subjected to an injustice. And it outrages me. What is the source of that injustice? Who is exploiting me? And if you're logical, you won't be saying, oh, transgender people, the gays are taking over. Oh, the migrants, the poor refugees at the south of the border are making my life hard. The colored folks, the blacks, the black minorities are making my life. Demonic forces. The return and the abandonment of Christian values is why I'm suffering. You won't reach those conclusions if you reach the point of outrage, which you should be in, but you don't try to retreat to delusions and religion. But if you retreat to delusions and religions, instead of real world oppressors, the oligarchs, the capitalist elite, you won't see them as the problem. You'll see unreal things like demons, spirits, and specters. If you're in a point of logic, you'll say, I have to look to my brothers and sisters and organize with my brothers and sisters for liberation. If you're in a part of unreason, you will look to your ancestors. Lift me up, my ancestors, thinking some black people from an ethereal realm can do anything for you and intervene on your behalf. And instead of organizing, you burning sage and casting spells. This shit is unacceptable. Somebody's got to call the shit out. It will lead to the doom of our people. Religion and spirituality have too much power and too much impact and control over us as individuals and us as a collective. And until we diminish the power of formalized religion and diminish the impact of fantasy, make-believe thinking that we determine is real, we are doomed. And my main point of Christian nationalism is that many of the delusions of the white Christian nationalists, black people, are primed. We are so susceptible to it. And everywhere I look, every time I engage, I'm seeing more and more of their irrationality, their bloodlust, their delusions spill over into us. And we take that shit and season it up and sell it back to our own community. So, until we overcome our tendency to make things that are unreal real, which is really a testament to the amazing evolution. I got black people who are saying climate change ain't real and talking about God's will. They talking about how we in the last days, how prophecies are being fulfilled. I mean, in 2023, people are speaking like illiterate nomads. How are we in 2023 and we still got these same delusions and superstitions that plagued us for over 2,000 years? And so many good black people, well-intentioned people think, well, if I want to work with, I want to help, I want to engage with my community and my race, I gotta respect religion. You don't respect something by simply bowing to it. Respect is, I'm going to see you for who you are and what you are and respond accordingly. To me, that's respect. And maybe Wednesday, I want to talk more about Black liberation theology. I know that Skip Coon is not very keen on discussing religion. But I'm going to open up for questions, comments, and criticism. First, let me acknowledge my generous supporters. Jesus Christ. But I want to talk about this more. I am a devangelist. I am a devangelist, which means I want to the best of my ability, as a core part, as I fight for liberation, if I fight for just distribution of the world's resources, as I fight for the proper stewardship of the world's ecosystem, I also fight to diminish the power and impact of religion and supernatural delusion, supernatural myths over people. I fight to expand secularism. I am a secularist, which means I'm willing to work with people who have religious beliefs, but I'm not willing to allow their religious beliefs to dictate a goddamn thing for anybody besides them. And I have to determine whether or not their religious belief makes them compatible or even capable of engaging in reasoned, rational action. And unfortunately, I've met quite a few people from several different belief systems who have demonstrated that capacity. But it's still harming us. We don't realize the harm. Jesus does not walk with you. And I have to go to Kanye. And I gotta need somebody to put that in a song. Jesus doesn't walk with you. Jesus does not exist. There was no virgin birth. There is no dying for your sin, and there will be no return from on high. God's plan. Go to Drake. God has no plan. Every plan made by God was written by a man pretending to act on behalf of God. Every holy book was conceptualized by individuals, organization, cabals. And I know that's something to struggle with. But if you are a believer in any religion, don't just look at the holy book. Look at the anthropological record. Look at the claims made about science. If your holy book says something about how the earth was formed, about how man came to be, about how the different kinds and diversity of life came to be on this planet, and you look at the end time, oh, God said the world would end in fire. Look at Maui. If you think about it, everything in the Bible was right around what those primitive people could see. Fire, bugs and locusts, floods. They don't say shit about bullets. They don't say shit about nuclear fission and bombs. They don't say anything about airplanes. And then people say, oh, it descended from the sky. And they go to the Bible that doesn't say airplanes and they're like, well, that's an airplane. Why didn't God just say airplane? He knew we would be speaking English. Why didn't God produce the Bible? Why did the Bible have to be translated by man? God didn't know we'd be sitting here speaking English. I mean, it's such an obvious con. Humanity has to come out. Humanity is enslaved by our own inventions. Everybody's talking about AI. Everybody's scared of AI, but y'all been following the Bible? Y'all so scared of we're gonna invent something that's gonna take us over. We're gonna invent something that's gonna control us. We're gonna invent something that can destroy us. We already did that shit 2,300 years ago. We already invented something that could destroy us. So how you gonna fucking address the new threats, the new inventions that could destroy us, and you ain't dealing with the original self-destroying invention in the palm of your hand? You're giving 10% of your income to the very invention that can destroy you. Weird. Anyway, I'm past time. Let me acknowledge my supporters and let y'all go. Thank you, Canisius. $10. I appreciate that support and much respect to you. Rest in peace to Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad. Khalid Abdul Muhammad, it lives. He is an ancestor, not because he's some specter floating in some ancestral realm. He is an ancestor because he left behind a body of work, and he left behind an example that we can follow. So that's how he lives on. He lives on through his students. We who have learned from him and seek to carry on his mission of African liberation. Nami. Blessings on blessings. Oh, forget everything I just said because I just been blessed, y'all. Shoot. I was going to go home after this, so I have to find something else to do. So if hope Dr. Mingo ain't watching this because I'm about to go, I have a windfall. But thank you. 100% agree with you when you talk about understanding the difference between uprisings and military coups. We have to take rational approach, a rational look at what is really going on Africa, and we have to be sincere in our analysis. Blessings on blessings. He blesses with funding and he blesses us. If you love the BroDiallo show, thank Nami, because that's the kind of support. Woo! Blessings on blessings. It's very encouraging and beyond the support. Super sticker. I don't know what super sticker is. Sekim. Nah. Okay. Thank everyone who made contributions in the super chat. Thanks for everyone. Next week, I promise I'm going to open up the phones for a longer period of time. I wanted to open up the phone because I know this is a sensitive topic. And we, tune into Black Power Media, Rational Radicals. I'm going to see if Skip Coon is willing to discuss Black liberation theology with me because he is a Black liberation theologist. Hopefully he doesn't see this show. And that's that. I appreciate y'all. Shout out to King's Son. Shout out to Poor Righteous Teacher. Shout out to the legacy and tragedy that is Tupac Shakur. And we came in with King's Son. We might as well make it a full King's Son day. So we're going to go out with King's Son. Be Black.